I'm Brad Herlock with AA Shop Marketing and the Garage Grit podcast. And just a real quick note up front, I'm not a coach. I am a marketer. I don't sell coaching programs. I don't sell blueprints. Our job at AA Shop Marketing is to help independent repair shops attract the right customers, get more of the work that they actually want. That's what we do here at AA Shop Marketing. But we're also trying to help as many shops as possible. And that fits in with the mantra. And that's why we have the podcast for the Garage Grit podcast. And if you're listening right now, I just kind of I'm imagining, I suspect that you are trying to grow your shop. You're trying to develop your shop. And if that's the case, then you are in the right spot. You are listening to the right feed. If you aren't, and you're kind of just, I don't even like customers, then you're probably in the wrong spot. But if you're trying to grow, you're trying to develop, then this is a spot for you. We talk about all sorts of great topics on the Garage Grit podcast. And the most recent panel that just dropped, the shop owners panel that just dropped today, was about succession planning. What's next for your shop after you're gone, right? So we're going to pull lessons straight out of that powerful podcast episode about that building that legacy and that succession planning for repair shops. This is episode 32. And I sat down with 3 shop owners, but 4 people in total. And we had a raw conversation of what it looks like when you start thinking about the future of your business. We had Mike from Grinnell Firestone out of Iowa. We had Steve from Finzel's Master Tech in Indiana. And we had Kelly and Lee Weatherby from Accurate Automotive in Mesa, Arizona. Now, between them, you've got decades of shop ownership, expansion, contraction, health scares, second generation, all great stories. And so episode 32, check out the whole thing in its entirety. It just got dropped earlier today. Now, succession planning might sound like a topic that's, later on down the road, but the truth is it's connected to everything. Hiring processes, customer trust, private equity sniffing around. Even when there's a technician shortage like there is today, it's touching that succession planning. And if you want your business to outlive you, then this is the stuff that makes that difference. And a lot of times, a lot of shop owners have the similar attitude of myself, where it's not just about my income. It's about the income of my team. It's about taking care of their families. We're so interconnected on so many levels. And so the idea of you just walking away and then leaving those people high and dry, like I feel a level of responsibility to continue to be a part of my community in some way by allowing that shop, allowing that business to outlive me and you. So before we get rolling, do me a quick favor, drop your shop name and your city in the comments right now. And in one word, tell me your biggest pain point today. Is it people? Is it process? Is it technicians? Is it hiring? Is it dealing with particular customer issues? Are you looking at DVIs? You tell me. Are you looking at new CRMs? Let me know. But let's start with how these shops that were on our panel today think about their customer journey and what it means to keep things steady, whether you're in the building or not. Mike runs Grinnell Firestone, a 6-bay shop in rural Iowa with about 10,000 people in his town. His family started the business in 71, that's 1971, as a tire store. Like a lot of second-generation owners, he watched the Costco, the Walmarts, the large conglomerates flood the market with cheap tires in the 80s. And so his parents pivoted. They added auto repair to keep things going. That shift to one-stop complete car care is what kept them very relevant. Now, Mike and his wife handle about 500 cars a month. The business is half tires, half repair. That balance works for them. But here's the catch. When you've built a business being flexible, customers start expecting you to always be able to say yes. Mike even admitted that. They created their own little beast, right? They roll in at the last second for a tire repair or a bulb or a quick fix. And then he's the one flying around, plugging the holes when somebody calls out. It's a great service model for the customer, but it also really ties him to the shop floor. Succession planning for him isn't going to be just retirement in 8 years. It's writing things down now, training his people to handle those drop-ins differently or more effectively so that he's not the one that's tethered to it, making himself more replaceable. Now, Steve was also on the panel and of Indiana, and he grew his shop from a 3-bay gas station to a 14-bay building under one roof because he saw early on that if he ever wanted to sell or even hand it off, nobody was going to buy a patchwork of old buildings with a gas station. Um, he called it setting the table for a buyer. And he learned quickly private equity doesn't want to buy your job. They want to buy a business that runs without you. I think that's worth saying again. Private equity firms, large corporations looking to buy your shop, or even other independent owners looking to buy your shop, they're not looking to buy a job. They're looking to buy a business that runs without you. They don't want an owner who has to wave the magic wand every single day. They want systems. They want playbooks. They want a team that can handle the work. Now, then we've got Kelly and Lee, who joined the panel while on their their anniversary vacation. Not honeymoon, their anniversary vacation. God bless them. Thank you for shout out to them. But they had at one point 22 space for 22 bays across multiple buildings. And reality hit, life hit. Retirement on the horizon. They downsized to 8 bays. Now here's the kicker. Productivity per bay went up. They sold the buildings. They went debt-free, simplified it, made life easier for them and their people. And that's, in a way, succession planning in real life. It's not necessarily a straight line. Sometimes you scale up, sometimes you cut back, but you make those moves with your team in mind. And just because it's going to be volatile, just because it's going to change, isn't a reason to not start in the first place. You need to start the planning process. What ties all three stories together is stewardship. These cards that come in aren't just about tickets. They're live animals, always changing. The shop has to hold that responsibility while the owner figures out what's next. Succession isn't only about who owns the business later. It's also about who takes care of the customer today when you're not there. So let me throw this to you. If you want to keep growing, you need more of the right customers, not just more cars. And that's what AA Shop Marketing does. We help you get found by the right people, the ones who book the bigger jobs and keep coming back, the ones that are maintenance minded. And if you want more of that, join the Garage Grid podcast community. Link will be in the bio. Okay, we need to make sure that link is added to the bio. Now, let's dig into the trust moments. This is where succession planning meets the customer experience head on. One of the strongest points that Steve made was about documentation. And it was even suggested at one point that we have a panel just discussing documentation. But I'm wondering if even that is too big of a topic, that we need to be more specific than that. At Fizzles, they've got everything scripted. How to answer the phone, how to schedule an appointment, how to do a test drive. That's right. How and where actually is a better way to say that. Where to do a test drive. He has that mapped out specifically. Written routes, short track, long track, left turns, right turns, because if the car goes missing on a road test, everybody knows where to look. Now that sounds like a small detail, but it's the level of detail that proves that a shop can run without the owner standing over it. And that kind of documentation builds trust both with the customer and potential buyers. Private equity firms flat out told Steve, if you can't show us that the shop runs without you, then we're not interested. They don't want to buy your personality. And for some of you, you're being very thankful right now. But they also don't want to buy your labor. They want to buy a system that works. That's where succession planning overlaps the day-to-day trust. Because if the customer doesn't care if you're in the building or not, they care if the process feels the same way every single time. I just had an Origin Impact story that's going to be coming out soon, where we were just talking exactly that. He recently had customers come up to him and say, "Are you going to be around for a while? Because I want to keep bringing my car here." And so he's going to have to train some of those customers that he's got the system in place. He doesn't need to be there. Now, Mike from Grinnell's perspective was different. He said a wise man told him, how you handle plan B defines who you are. Things never go exactly the way you pictured in your head, so you've got to roll with the punches. For him, trust means being able to step back and let his service writers and techs take over and know that the customers will still be served well. And that's what lets him and his wife sneak away for long weekends without the wheels falling off. Now, Kelly and Lee shared about how they pulled back the curtain with their employees, their longtime employees. They had 2 team members who they'd been with them for over 20 years. They thought that maybe those would be their successors. But when they opened up the books, they showed them the real numbers. They explained what ownership would look like. One was ready, one not as much. And maybe it was him, or maybe it was the other spouse. There's a lot of factors in play. But the one couldn't do it alone. And so that's real life, right? Change. The roadmap was altered. Sometimes your perfect succession plan hits a wall. You've got to pivot, rewrite it. That's where the Weatherby stood out. They told their people straight, their friends serving friends, family serving families. That's their motto. Customers aren't just tickets. Employees aren't just bodies. They wanted everyone to understand the why behind the plan. That's transparency that builds trust. Even when plans change, the culture is held. And you know what? Sometimes trust means losing the wrong customers. I've said it on the podcast, better to let a few go than twist yourself into not serving folks who don't respect your process. I don't recall saying it exactly that way, but you get the drift. But that's succession planning too, because you don't want to hand your next owner or your kids a business filled with customers that run you ragged. So let me hear from you. When you have to deliver bad news, whether it's a blown engine or a total loss or a delay, what's the one line you use that keeps customers' trust? Do you have a secret sauce? Drop it in the comments. I want to collect some of those real world phrases that we might all be able to use. All right, let's talk culture and capacity. This is where succession planning becomes the daily grind of running a shop. One thing that all 3 guests agreed on is that comebacks are system issues, not tech issues. That's interesting. I've heard from other podcast episodes, like Bill from TrueFix Auto Works, that it's not the individual tech. That the comebacks are actually not zero comebacks isn't a goal. It is the standard. I really liked the way he suggested that. And I like how that's kind of echoed here because it's a team issue, not an individual issue, right? It's not about finding the particular tech. It's about fixing the process. And that's where that culture comes in, that culture of team. It turns the standards into habits. And that's what makes the business attractive for buyers for the next generation. Now, Steve had a powerful example. He built a new building, not just to expand, but to make his business sellable. His old setup, that gas station, a pole barn, and miscellaneous buildings, wasn't going to attract serious buyers. So he consolidated into one professional building with 14 bays. And he sent the message. This is a modern operation. And his son surprised him by stepping in. The whole succession plan flipped. Instead of selling it to equity, it's now about training his son. That's capacity, teaching the next leader. Mike, on the other hand, is still very hands-on, and he admits that he's also a utility player, covering for the absent techs, fixing the tires, filling the gaps. So succession planning for him means writing down those duties and delegating them. Because right now, if he sells, the buyer is going to be deducting the cost of replacing him off of the value, because we're going to need to hire a general manager to replace you. And so that's real money that we're talking about. And it's not the salary that you're currently paying yourself. It's a salary that they're going to have to pay someone who doesn't own it to want to work there and do it well. Dollars to donuts, I bet you that's more money than you're currently paying yourself. The Weatherbys reminded us that sometimes culture means lifestyle. They've sold the buildings, they've downsized, they ended up with a higher productivity. Why? Because their people could manage it better. They said that the health scare was the push that they needed. So they cashed out, went debt-free, and made life easier for the whole team. And that's part of their culture and legacy. So where's marketing come in? Because if your marketing doesn't match your operations, if it doesn't match your culture, if it doesn't match your level of professionalism, then you're setting yourself up for failure. You can't run a bare bones inspection process and then blast out social media about being thorough. Your customers are going to find that gap. On the flip side, you can use inspections as a feeder system. You can market small cosmetic wins while the car's already in the bay. You can time your outreach so that it matches your shop that what your shop can actually deliver. Succession planning isn't just about the owner's exit. It's also about creating a shop that lives beyond you, with culture, capacity, and marketing all aligned. That's what makes it worth something to the equity, or to a family member, or to that employee who might step up. So if you want more of the right customers, the ones who fit your culture and keep your bays full, watch that full conversation. It's the Garage Grit Podcast, episode 32. And you're going to find it on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts. And if you're ready to get those customers in your own bay, then you need to reach out to AA Shop Marketing, aashopmarketing.com, and be happy to chat with you about your succession planning, and maybe even point you in the right direction of a few coaches. Also be happy to talk to you about how marketing aligns with that succession planning. I'm Brad from AA Shop Marketing, and your host of the Garage Grit Podcast. Now, we've covered a lot of ground today. It boils down to these three things. Truth builds trust. If you want your shop to outlast you, you need to be transparent with your people and your customers. Number two, own it. Own the relationship, but partner on the tasks. Don't be afraid to sell the buildings, hire the managers, or even bring in the equity. Just make sure that the relationship with the customer is in your control. And three, culture turns standards into habits. Zero comebacks, better processes, better documentation. And that's the stuff that makes business run when you're not there. And if you're concerned about the overwhelming idea of documentation, in this episode, there were a couple key tips that's going to speed up your documentation process. So you're just going to have to listen to it to find that out. And I'll remind you again, I'm not a coach, I'm a marketer. AA Shop Marketing exists to help shops attract the right types of customers, those maintenance-minded customers, keep the base filled with profitable work. So that's what we're doing for our shops. And that's how we keep shops not just alive, but thrive, and long after that first generation. So tell me, what's the single takeaway that you're going to apply in your shop this week? Post that in the comments. I'd love to hear from you about that. And feel free to also comment on what you would like us to cover in future panels. Drop that in the comments as well. Let's keep learning from each other. Let's keep growing together, stronger. Thank you. I'm Brad Herlock from the aashopmarketing.com.